about to start. We'll talk about code or whatever we'll talk about today. It's about to start, so please hang tight while I check that everything is okay. Sound check, camera check, lights check. How's my hair? Oh, wait, I don't have any hair. Maybe put some pants on and I am good to go. So get ready wherever you are, 'cause this stream is about to start. Get ready wherever you are, 'cause this stream is about to start. Hi, my name is Leandro Facchinetti, and let's write some code together, shall we? What we have on the menu today is a change in the implementation of the Lookahead parameter in our Automixer that is kind of tricky, a bit fancy, kind of cool. We'll get into that. First, hi Ben, how are you doing? I'm glad that you are here. Thanks for joining us. And the intro song is Stuck in Your Head All Week. You are welcome. It's a great intro song. You can watch the series of streams in which we worked on the song. It was a couple months ago, perhaps like 6 months ago. We had streams with Aria from IDDQD Sound, and we worked on this song in live streams. The better part of the thing was recorded, edited, mixed, mastered live. And Bo is here. Hello, Bo. Great to have you here. All right, so let's dive in. There is a link in the description of this video, or in the description of this stream. And the link is to a video by Dan Walrow, and it is about a compressor feature in dynamic equalizers in the FabFilter plugins. But there is one thing that stuck out to me when I watched that video, and that was that I probably implemented the Lookahead parameter in my original Automixer, and in this new Automixer as well, for that matter, in a way that is not ideal. It may not be the best way. And unfortunately, I cannot really verify how other plugins do this, because I could only find, in a brief search in my plugins directory, I could only find one compressor that had a Lookahead feature for me to compare to. Let's dive a bit deeper. But as a recap for people who are joining now and have no idea what I'm talking about, we are doing real-time audio effects. We are using the JSFX programming language that comes with REAPER. In particular, we are working on this effect called an Automixer that is meant to mix automatically a bunch of microphones that may be open in the same room. So think of a round table, an interview, a podcast, that kind of thing. And today specifically, we're going to be talking about one slider, one parameter of this plugin called a Lookahead parameter. And that is so that the plugin can look ahead into the audio that will come in the future to make its decision about how to mix the microphones. All right, so here is the test setup from Dan Warrow's video that I'm going to reproduce real quick. I will have two sound sources. The first is my microphone, and the second is our trusty little tone generator. And then I will have a track with a compressor, and the only compressor I could find in my brief 2-minute research into my plugins folder, the only compressor that I could find that had a Lookahead parameter was this one, Precomp, the stock REAPER compressor. And the Precomp slider is just Lookahead. In fact, when we engage Precomp, you can see that the latency is increased to make that look ahead possible. All right, so the thing that I am compressing is the sine wave from the tone generator. Let's route that to there. So that's what I am compressing. But the compressor will not look into the sine wave. It will compress the sine wave, but it will not detect the envelope of the sine wave. It will detect the envelope of my voice, of my microphone. So let's set that up by dragging from the root button not into the track, but into the plugin itself, which conveniently maps the audio from my voice going to channels 3 and 4. It actually created 2 more channels on this track. Then over here, I can say that I want to detect the envelope of my voice, the sidechain, the auxiliary inputs. And now you can see that it's the detector here is bouncing up and down with my voice. So now let's increase the ratio to infinity and put the compressor around here so that we are getting some compression. And in fact, you can see the meter here going up and down. That's the sine wave being compressed with respect to my voice. Now here is the interesting part. Let's increase the pre-compressor or the Lookahead parameter a whole lot. And then I will click and look at this parameter, look at this volume meter. Isn't that interesting? You would expect it to go down once because I clicked once, but it actually goes down twice. Interesting, huh? I have another way of looking at this that makes it even more evident. So here's what we are going to do. We are going to set up another track with an effect called a gain reduction scope, another stock REAPER plugin. All of these are stock REAPER plugins, by the way. So the way that the gain reduction scope works is you want to send the original signal into channels 1 and 2. So I can just drag and drop this. And you want to send the compressed signal into channels 3 and 4, the sidechain. I wonder if I can just drag and drop into the plugin like I do with Recomp, but I don't think I can. Oh, hey, that works. Awesome. So now you can see a neat graph of the gain reduction over time. Of course, it's going below the bar because it is reducing the gain. The compressor is reducing the gain. So now I'm going to click again and look at this graph. Now, perhaps you would expect to see one spike going down when I click, but that's not what happens. You see 2. Let's turn off the pre-compressor or the Lookahead parameter and then see what happens when I click. So that's more like it. It's just one spike. But when I have the pre-compressor, it's 2. What's going on there? Well, the thing is, the way that we implemented Lookahead in the Automixer so far, the way that I implemented it in my original implementation of the Automixer, and even the way that I read about in the book about C++ audio effects by Will Perkle, he mentions Lookahead. And he implements Lookahead this way as well. So the way that we all implement Lookahead is you take the signal that is coming in and you calculate your envelope based on that. You calculate the loudness, the RMS, and whatever else you need based on the signal that is coming in. But you don't apply the gain reduction to that signal. You apply the gain reduction to a delayed version of that signal. So you delay the actual signal that is going out, you delay that, and you just play it back with the delay. And this way, you cannot really look ahead into the future. That doesn't make physical sense. You cannot look into samples in the future because you don't know what I'm going to say next. But what you can do is hold on to the older samples and play them back with a delay. So the detector is running with the samples as they come in, but the playback thing is running with a bit of a delay. And that's how you can implement Lookahead. And that's as simple as that. Just this simple notion of delaying the actual signal that you are playing back implements the Lookahead feature. And that's what we did earlier this week. I think it was on Wednesday. Right, so that's that. But that's not exactly what Recomp is doing. Recomp is calculating the loudness of the signal that is coming in, and it's storing that loudness, it's storing that envelope. So when it is playing back the samples, so it has that a bit of a delay on the playback of the samples, it's going to look at the gain reduction that it computed with the Lookahead, as well as the gain reduction that it would have computed without the Lookahead, and it takes the maximum gain reduction of both of these. So that's what it's doing, and that's why we see the click appearing as two spikes. One of the spikes is the spike computed from the audio that just came in, so the regular pre-compression or Lookahead feature that we have already implemented. And what we're going to implement today is this second notion of storing the RMSs that are computed, or the envelope, and considering it considering it twice. Actually, we are looking at the envelope twice. We are looking at the envelope of the thing we just computed with the Lookahead usual thing, as well as a Lookahead of the past, as if there was no Lookahead, and we are taking both in account at the same time. And you end up with this kind of curve. That's the intention. I wonder if there is an easy way for me to see this kind of gain reduction scope for the Automixer. I haven't really considered that. I think that there is a way. Let's do this real quick. So this is Recomp, and this is my microphone, and this is the tone, and this is the gain reduction scope. And this is the actual instance of Recomp, just like that. Okay, I just don't want to delete all this setup. So now let's do this again for the Automixer to try to see the difference. I think we can make it. First, we need to have, I guess I will do the same setup with this stuff going on. And this will be our Automixer. And this is the gain reduction scope. Let's put the gain reduction scope there. Let's put our development version of the Automixer here. And I don't want to touch these two. I don't want to apply the Automixer right here. So I think I will need two instances or two tracks here to make this work. So this is the Automixer microphone. This will be the Automixer tone. Let's send this there. Let's send that there. And then we have some auto mixing going on. We can see the sine wave bouncing up and down with respect to my voice. Now for the gain reduction scope, we want to send the original sound, which is the tone, into here. And we want to send the compressed version, which in this case is the auto mixed version, into the sidechain of this guy, into parts 3 and 4. And now you can see the Automixer kicking in, and the shape of the curve is different from the compressor because the way that we compute the envelope is very different. You can see that the timing constants on the recomp version, the timing constants are much faster because this curve is bouncing up and down more than an Automixer is. The Automixer is much more relaxed. It's looking over 300 milliseconds worth of audio, I think. That's the default. Yeah, 300 milliseconds worth of audio, while the compressor is looking at much less than that. Right, but then let's do the actual test. So yeah, the shape of the spike is different. This is actually a spike and this is more like a rectangle. But what's more important is we see only one of them, only one of the spikes here and two spikes here. And the reason why we have a square over here and kind of a triangle shape here is because of the timing constants and the way that we use them. And also because of the way that we compute RMS. We are computing RMS using a rectangular window. We are just considering the 300 milliseconds worth of samples that are the most recent 300 milliseconds, and that's all. So we get this boxcar going over a window of samples. And then we get this rectangle because the spike is, the actual audio that I'm producing is almost like a sharp pulse. So when the window is on top of the pulse, it will have that square shape, and when it falls out, it goes back up almost immediately. And we don't have a notion of attack and release in the Automixer, though we could have, and I think maybe we will. Because it's kind of unique. No other Automixer has the notion of attack and release. Not that I know of anyway. And it could be kind of interesting. Anyway, one last time. Beautiful. Yeah, so what I would like to see perhaps, oh, I guess another thing that could, well, disregard everything I said so far, because I didn't engage the Lookahead parameter, did I? Let's try this again. Yeah, I was not considering the Lookahead. So now with the Lookahead, let's try again. But I think we know what we are going to see. Oh, we are getting some weirdness here. Let's do a Lookahead. What is the Lookahead of our compressor? It is 250 milliseconds. So let's do the same here. 250 milliseconds. But it also seems like we found a bug where if your Lookahead is very high, you get into this weird territory. And it seems like it's only happening around 900 milliseconds. And yeah, like 950 or something like that. It's a problem for the future. Anyway, let's get a look ahead of 250 milliseconds. And now this is a fair comparison. Recomp is at a 250, Automixer 250 as well. And just for the sake of it, this is the gain reduction for Recomp. Let's play around with the timing constants to see how they affect the shape of this wave. So if I have a very fast attack. This is represented by this sharp, by this sharp descent. But if I increase the attack, then we should see something more with this kind of shape. Not really, we don't. The attack is so fast that it just ignores my clicks altogether. We still see two of them, but they are much less pronounced. Let's try something around here. Yeah, much less pronounced. And if I increase the release, I expect this this rise to be much less steep. Yeah, see, it takes a long time to get back. And if I increase the RMS size to something like 300 milliseconds, and if I take the attack and release down to 0, I expect these two shapes to be very similar because they are using 300 milliseconds of RMS, they are using 250. Well, let's turn off the Lookahead for a moment just to see if the shapes match, because that can be kind of cool. And the ratio to infinity, no knee size, yeah, sounds about right. And then the shapes of these two curves are very similar. They're not quite exactly the same because the way that we are computing stuff is different. But they're reasonably similar. I like that. Anyway, let's get back into the pre-compressor mode with 250 milliseconds. And then let's return to the main point of this whole endeavor, which is the click. Now this RMS window is so large that we don't see 2 clicks here anymore, so perhaps we should decrease this about 50 milliseconds. It's much bouncier. Now we see 2 of them, nice. And then let's have an equivalent 50 milliseconds there in the Automixer. See, now I guess it's clear as day, because the shapes of the curves are very similar. There you have it. So we want to have this behavior over here. And I looked into other compressors, none of them had the pre-compressor or Lookahead feature, but if you have in your plugin folder a compressor that you like that has a pre-compressor or Lookahead feature, then run this same test and let me know, because I am interested in knowing if more people implement this Lookahead the recomp way, or if more people implement it the naive way, so to speak, the way that we are implementing it in the Automixer. You got the outro song stuck in your head. That's good. I'm happy. It means that they are catchy. And they work well for branding. I recently reached this milestone on YouTube. It's like, I guess, 5,000 hours of watch time. Something like that. I forget the exact number, but it's more than 1,000. I guess it's 5,000. It's crazy if you think about it. 5,000 hours of people watching me talk about code. It's amazing. And that's how you grow your channel. You make these catchy songs and everybody loves them. Okay, so how are we going to implement this behavior? Let's dive into the code. Well, I know that I will need to consider the RMS twice. So I will need to remember this RMS. And currently I do not. I remember the audio that came in. That's what this Lookahead buffers is all about. But I don't remember the RMSs that I computed in the past. I use the RMSs that I compute to compute the attenuation, and then I apply the attenuation, but then I forget about it. So now let's have a circular buffer that will be similar in structure to this, except that this is about audio. We will be storing RMS. And I guess I will rename this buffers thing, because I don't love this name. And currently buffers only appears in 3 places, so it's a quick rename. From buffers, it will be, I guess, audio. I don't know. I don't love it. I don't love it, but I don't have a better name for it. Whatever. So we currently have the buffers. Let's have a copy of this that we'll call the RMSs. It's ridiculous, I know. And oh, the RMSs are not different for each channel. We actually accumulate all the channels in a single RMS. So this doesn't have to be an array. It can be simply a circular buffer, which is much simpler. Yeah, okay. All of this looks okay to me. So now let's use this circular buffer to store RMSs from the past. Let me find the place where I compute RMS. It's right here. And this already takes in account the priority, which is something that I do want to do, but it does not take in account the strength. But that's all right, I think. I think that that's okay. I think that that's the behavior I want. I don't know. All these features interact in weird ways. How do I want to take in account how do I want to take in account strength in light of this Lookahead situation? I'm not really sure. I'll have to think about it. For now, let's just worry about this feature. Let's not worry about strength. I'll keep strength of 1. I will not think about priorities either. I will not assign priorities to different tracks. Let's just worry about the Lookahead feature and try to make the 2 spikes appear. I will want to push into this circular buffer. And the thing that I want to push is this. But do I want to do it right away? Well, I might as well, because I'm not changing the RMS below, so I guess I would just put it here. And now I need to compute the attenuation in light of not only RMS that I currently computed, but also in light of this old RMS. Oh, and I will want to get old RMSs, so I think I might be in a better position if I push into the circular buffer over here, because then the offsets will work correctly. If I do this kind of offset, it will work correctly. Okay, so the trick is just anywhere where I see RMS being used, which is in just one location, just right here, I have to not only look at RMS, but also look at this old RMS that I can get from there. That's easy enough. I can just take... Do I want the maximum or the minimum in this situation? I am not sure. Well, let's think about it. This is the numerator of this division. So if I make this number larger, it will attenuate less because this number will be closer to 1. I think I want the minimum then. I think I want the minimum between this I think I want a separate variable for this. I know, it is getting more ridiculous every time. The variable names are ridiculous, but whatever. So we have to check. Do we have a look ahead going on at all? Because if we don't have a look ahead going on, then the look ahead samples is equals to 0. I will just take this and not worry about anything. But if I do have some look ahead going on, then I want to take the minimum. I think we'll have to experiment with this. It may be the maximum. But anyway, I want to take the minimum between RMS, which is the RMS that we just computed for the sample that came in, so our usual implementation. The minimum between that and the look ahead RMS circular buffer. And this looks about right. I want to get stuff from the past with this offset. And then we use that moving forward. That stands a chance of working. What do you think? Do you see a problem? Bonus points if you can find the problem and alert me of the problem before it happens on the demonstration when we actually put this to test. Rob Chokehold's plugins has a lot of good JSFX plugins, one compressor, maybe that has Lookahead. Well, I think I have his plugins on my computer. Interesting. They are the README, the license, and the authors are showing, but the plugins themselves are not. So he didn't sign with his name in the plugins, but whatever. Let's see what plugins we are looking at here. Simulator Bus Compressor. Let's look at the slider, dB gain, compressor, threshold, ratio, attack, release, sidechain, high pass, routing, linking, stability, saturation, makeup gain. No look ahead that I can find. Track compressor. I think that's the only other compressor that I saw in the folder. Input gain, feedback, threshold, ratio, attack release, RMS window, knee, range, high pass, auto makeup gain, saturation, output gain. Yeah, I don't see any pre-compression or look ahead. Well, one thing that I didn't do, but I can always try, is just look for look ahead in my whole JSFX folder. Yeah, General Dynamics has look ahead, but that's also implemented by Caucus, so it stands to reason that it implements the thing the same way. We can try. We can probably put it here. And we want to detect using the auxiliary. We want the detector gain. We don't need to change that. The detector size, I think we are running at 50. Input look ahead, I think we are running at 250. Input attack and release, we are zeroing. Gain, attack and release can be 0 as well. So I think we have it. I think that that's how you do it. And we want to turn off recomp. But it's not compressing the thing anymore. But that's because I don't have any curve here. So let's have... is that necessary? Yes, that's necessary. Let's put a curve around here. And now we are compressing. This is going down by a whole lot. So let's look at the gain reduction scope for that. Oh, check this out. Caucus implemented this thing differently on different plugins. That's interesting. Any other plugins we can look at? Vibrato, droplets, my own Automixers, video sample peaker, filter, That's not a compressor. That's not a compressor. Since we don't have Lookahead, some stuff will get past the limiter. It's interesting because it's just this event horizon prefers to just it prefers to force some distortion. This is clipping. This is hard clipping. So it's forcing distortion instead of letting some samples beyond the limit pass. Interesting choice. I think I would probably start by not worrying about this and letting samples beyond the limit pass, because presumably they will be distorted elsewhere, if only on the audio interface on the way out. Whatever. Transient driven auto pan, that doesn't seem to be our guy. And that's that. In terms of JSFX, that's what we have. But when I asked you to check, if you all watching this are interested in checking, and if you have plugins that are compressors, I was thinking of beyond JSFX. I tried to find any VST that would have this sort of Lookahead feature, and I couldn't find any in my 2 minutes research anyway. Okay, so we implemented this thing, but we didn't test it. Let's get back to the recomp, because that's the behavior that I want to emulate. Okay, we have the 2 spikes and the gain reduction scope with the old implementation of the Automixer. Haven't reloaded yet. Single spike. And you may be thinking, oh, these two are very different because of the height of the spikes and the height of this curve in general, but I think that the height of this curve is just related to my threshold. So if I increase this threshold, I can make them look very, very similar. And something around here probably will do. It's never gonna get exactly the same, but it's good enough for my purposes. Whatever, so this is recomp. Let's put the Automixers back in. And we want a window of, I think it's 250 and, no, it's a window of 50 and a look ahead of 250. That's what we are doing. And it's important that the RMS window is shorter than the look ahead. Otherwise, the 2 spikes are going to merge together. Right? You will not have you will not have enough time. The RMS window will not have enough time to completely go over the spike before the other window is supposed to go over it. So the crucial thing is that the RMS window is shorter than the look ahead window. Anyway, I think we got this. Then let's put this here and look at the gain reduction scope. It didn't work. Yay. Yay, it didn't work. Why? I don't know. Let's investigate. Let me first double check that I have the right settings here, because these settings are supposed to be synced globally, but we had some issues with global syncing of parameters in the previous stream, but they seem to be all right. 50 and 250. That seems correct. So, I think I want to investigate first. This variable, attenuation RMS. It is not bouncing up and down, but that's okay because I'm looking at the sine wave. Let me look at my microphone instead. Yeah, so now attenuation RMS is changing. Oh, here's a simple thing that I can test right away. Remember how I didn't know if I was supposed to take the minimum or the maximum? Let's take the maximum. Perhaps it's the maximum that will make this work. Simple enough. Still nothing. It's interesting because this Lookahead is so long that you can sort of see when I stop speaking, the same shape appear twice over here. When I stop speaking. See, these two curves are the same. Cool stuff. But it's not working. Why is it not working? Let's check that at least our treatment of storing RMS for the future is working correctly. If we are pushing stuff into the circular buffer and getting it out the right way. How can we see this easily? There is no easy way for me to plot stuff right now. It will be part of the library again. It was part of my JSFX library and took it out because I was reworking some stuff. It's not back in yet, so I don't have an easy way for me to plot a line graph of the RMS over time. So perhaps I can just try to inspect the variables. Or perhaps people in the chat have the answer already, because I see that Tail is commenting, so hey, he probably has the answer. So Cherry M6 S191DRML. How are you doing, young man? I have a doubt for one professor, Honor Motlu 2 Physics with Joseph George 3 U4 would make a bigger team. Thank you. Huh? Have you got anything without spam? No, I haven't got any spam. If you started with a timecode and you set it on a fractal pattern, each rhythm will have a harmonic time synced with a sequence of light, auto reverse, and I think you might have it. I'm afraid I have no idea what you're talking about. I am sorry, but you can be more specific if you want. At one point, I thought I was dealing with, like Tail, I thought I was dealing with someone who was a machine. And I asked the person, are you a machine? And they said, no, I am a human. So I don't assume that people are machines anymore. So, Cherry, if you're out there, you can explain more what it is that you're talking about. Or you are a robot who can pretend to be human, and I would love to talk to you anyway. If anything, you may be more interested in most of humanity, so I'm in for it. Don't forget a Rupert's drop. I would look it up. Thank you. You are welcome. Anyway, Tail, if you see the mistake, Bo, if you know what I'm doing wrong, and Ben, if you're out there screaming at your computer, saying you did this wrong, you have a typo here or there or something, then let me know. But anyway, let's dive into this debugging session. I'm not really sure I know where to start. I guess I will start by thinking hard if I want the minimum or the maximum over here. Because at least I can get that out of the way. Do I want the minimum or the maximum here? Well, the case that I'm worried about, and the reason why I want to implement this, perhaps I should have mentioned this before. Besides trying to do the thing that Recomp does, and besides trying to perhaps please Dan Warrow if he ever gets across my plugin, besides all that, what I would like to do is, if you're using a somewhat long Lookahead, I don't want to lose the trails of sentences. That's why I'm worried about this case and the reason why I'm experimenting with implementing this in the first place, because in the Automixer setting, it makes sense to have a relatively large Lookahead window, because you want the transitions between speakers to be as smooth as possible. If you're doing this auto-mixing in a live setting, you probably don't want any Lookahead, because that would introduce a delay and then people would be thrown off, because when they say something and when they hear something being played back on the PA, there would be a delay. It would be terrible. But if you're mixing a podcast, for instance, and you're editing a podcast, then you want the transitions between speakers to be as smooth as possible. You don't want to hear the Automixer working. You just want to get rid of crosstalk. So it makes sense to have a relatively large RMS window and perhaps a Lookahead window of about the same size or perhaps even larger. And when you have this kind of situation, and the reason why you would want these windows to be large is so that they can do transitions that are smooth. You saw before when I was playing around with the timing constants, the shape of the gain reduction curve was getting smoother as the time constants were getting bigger. When I increased the release, we saw a curve going up that was much less steep, and that's what you want. You want the gain reduction to be subtle in an Automixer setting. So you have these large windows, but then when someone stops speaking, silence will come in, or perhaps bleed from someone else, but the gain on the volume of the signal coming in will be relatively low. And in that case, it will look into the future, find that silence, and may start decreasing the gain on your microphone before your sentence even finished. Because it's looking ahead and seeing silence, so it's starting to lower the gain allocated to you, but you're still speaking. So I don't want the gain reduction to occur. Well, I guess it's the opposite of that two spike situation, right? No, I guess not. I guess not, because I'm talking about the attenuation of the crosstalk. Yeah. Yeah, in any case, the reason why I'm implementing this is because I want to preserve the tail ends of sentences. And in that case, I have to think about if I want the maximum or the minimum. I cannot really get my head around this. But I know that for a fact, if I get the maximum and or the minimum to work here, then I will see the two spikes and then I can think about what I want to actually do. But I actually first want to get the two spikes so that I know that I implemented this correctly. Yeah, I will not forget a Rubit's drop. Is that a thing? What is that? That is a thing. Nice. But I really don't know what that has to do with anything. Anyway, let's see if I implemented the treatment of the circular buffer correctly. That much I don't need to test because I'm pretty sure that this line makes sense. Then this is the line that I'm most worried about. And then there is this other line that I'm pretty confident about, but I can test anyway. Yeah, I guess the line that I'm most worried about is probably this one. So I will put here some debug statement. And I expect at least to see these numbers bouncing up and down. Of course, I want to set the thing up again by having 50 and 250. Then the debug variable is at least going up and down. Great. And these two are the same. They seem to be the same. Which makes sense, I think. Well, they are not always the same. Because sometimes the RMS coming in is greater than or less than the RMS from the past. So they are often the same, not always the same. That seems about right. Well, while I'm still not sure if I want the maximum or the minimum, how about I do both? This is definitely something that I will want to look into the future, because it's wrong. But for the time being, and all these numbers are RMSs, so they are guaranteed to be non-negative, so I don't have to worry about that kind of deal. But there you go. Now I don't know if I need the maximum or the minimum. Now I have both. Does that change anything? I'm so sure that this variable is correct, and if this variable is correct, then everything below it is using that, so it should be correct too. That's so weird. Hang on. Did I do something silly? No, it's Lookahead RMS and Attenuation RMS. For a moment I thought that I had both variables with the same name. That of course wouldn't be good. I would be overriding that variable. But no, one is called Lookahead RMS, the other is called Attenuation RMS. So that's correct too. Well, there is an issue that I'm trying to not worry about, but perhaps that's what's causing the whole problem. Which is I am not using this minimum and maximum situation to compute the sum of all RMSs, and perhaps that's what I should be doing. But that's a bigger problem, I think, and I would like to avoid having to deal with that today. But I think it's probably going to be the subject of Monday's session. Well, anyway, we changed something about the code. Let's see if that did anything. Hello? No, single spike. Yeah, I'm not really sure I know why this is an issue, but I have a feeling that it is an issue because the sum of our RMSs is not looking at the RMSs from the past. It's just looking at the RMSs that have been currently computed. And perhaps that's our issue. That would be annoying. Yeah, I guess I would just commit this simple change. Well, I think that this hints at a bigger problem that actually has to do with all the features that we have implemented. Strength, priorities, and now Lookahead as well. And the issue is, when I compute the sum of our RMSs, I'm looking at the RMSs of other tracks, supposedly other microphones. But I should be taking in account the strength and the priorities of the other tracks. The priorities of the other tracks, incidentally, I am considering because I'm multiplying by the priority before I put stuff in the into the global memory. So the priority is taken care of. That's all good. The strength is not taken in account, because the strength is computed after we have fetched stuff and computed the sum of our masses. So the order of causality here seems incorrect to me. And the only way I can think of fixing this is, instead of storing into the global memory and communicating between the plugin instances just the RMS, I should be storing each step in the computation. So I compute just the RMS without the priority. I store that. I compute the RMS with the priority. I store that. I compute the attenuation with the strength. I store that. And I guess I also compute this stuff of looking into the past. I store that as well. And that's so that on each step of the way, I can look at what all the other instances are doing on that step, and I can take that in account to compute the next step. And this is kind of a weird problem that did not occur in my original implementation of the Automixer. It did not occur because I was syncing all the tracks using the REAPER routing mechanism. So all the steps of computation were already synced because they were computed side by side in the same plugin instance. And I didn't want to get into this today because it is a bit of a complex thing. I will have to store more pieces of data into the global data structure. I will have to fetch more pieces of data from the global data structure, and I will have to write more of these loops of summing things up and then normalizing, which is what this is doing, by the way. It's called normalization. So in effect, the problem is I am normalizing this value with respect to something that is not computed on the same basis because it doesn't look into the past. Isn't this annoying? I find that very annoying. It's an annoying issue to solve. But perhaps we'll have to bite the bullet and fix it. Interesting. That is the whole point of this. I am a theoretical scientist, and my professional art and myself have a theory on black holes and dark matter that we are trying to prove you would be perfect. Thank you. So you're trying to recruit me to do professional art and to prove a theory on black holes and dark matter. Now I get to spam reference. I apologize if you gave me fried spam with mustard and some white onions with vinegar with white toast. I'd call that a good lunch, thank you. This is fascinating. It seems no better than a Markov chain, really. If you don't know what a Markov chain is, go watch a previous stream of mine. You can look for the name conversationalist. I implemented this very simple sentence generator called a Markov chain, and I trained it on, I don't remember what actually, but it's quite funny. It comes up with ridiculous sentences that use the right words in somewhat the right order, but not really. And you end up with these kinds of sentences. Really fascinating. Okay, Tail is saying, I don't really understand what you're doing, but why are you getting the Lookahead circular buffer twice? Why am I getting the Lookahead circular buffer twice? You mean this? Oh, probably you mean this, right? I'm getting the Lookahead circular buffer twice in these two locations. It's just that in order to emulate this behavior that Recomp has of having these two spikes, I need to take in account the RMS that I have just computed as well as the RMS that I have computed in the past. And I have to combine these two. And I want to take either the minimum or the maximum between these two. But I cannot, for the life of me, I cannot figure out if I need the maximum or the minimum. So I just thought, well, what about if I just take both the maximum and the minimum? Which is a ridiculous thought, I know, but that's why I put these two gets here. I could probably have extracted this into a variable, but I want to fix this anyway. And I am pretty confident at this point that it has to do with the computation of sum of all RMSs, not taking in account the past samples, or the past RMSs. So I have to address that before I move on and find if I need the minimum or the maximum. Yeah, but the maximum between something and something and the same thing is x. Fair enough. But what if the maximum between these two is this? Then the minimum between that and that, well, it will be this, wouldn't it? Yeah, I guess by taking both the maximum and the minimum, I'm not getting the best of both worlds, I'm getting the worst. So, I don't know, I'll just have to pick one of the two and go with it. And then I will have to pick the right number of parentheses to put on this line, which is getting out of hand. I have 1 and 2. Okay, 1 and 2 seems fine. I am pretty confident I want the maximum. I'm pretty confident I want the maximum because I want to take in account what the person was saying in the past. I think that that's what I want. Yeah, good point. My naive strategy to sidestep the maximum minimum problem was kind of dumb. Single spike. God damn it. I really like the way that you shortened that up in the chat window. There is also 2 extra steps you could take to shorten it up even further. Good luck. Anyway, I think you are a robot, so I'm going to report you. But hey, thanks for joining us. You entertained me. We have pure mathematics and applied mathematics. I am now a sophomore in applied mathematics. That is the fun part, applying the math. Thank you. You are welcome, Cherry. Okay, we didn't exactly succeed today, but on Monday we will be looking at this issue of computing the steps, taking in account the results of the corresponding steps on the other Automixer instances. It's getting very in the weeds here, but I hope you understand what I mean. Anyway, that's the intent of Monday's stream. We'll be looking at all the steps of the computation, and we'll be normalizing on each step as well, which is something that we did in the original Automixer, and I didn't on this one, which is leading to some issues, by the way. We saw some issues on Wednesday that have to do with not normalizing. So that will be the point of Monday's stream. Oh, you're back? Hide user on this channel, remove report pin, go to channel, add moderator. That's not what I want. Hide user on this channel. Does that do it? Oh, okay. That's what I wanted. All right. So, thank you, Tail, Bo, and Ben for joining me on the chat. Thanks, Cherry, for being a great robot. Thank you to everyone else who is watching this but just not saying anything on the chat. I still appreciate you. I will be back here on Monday and we'll be continuing this endeavor. Hopefully, we will get the 2 little spikes of gain reduction that I'm looking for. Have a great weekend. I'm gonna get on my scooter and scoot around town. I hope you do the same. Bye. Thank you for watching the stream. You know how great it has been. Or maybe it sucked, and I am glad that you stuck with me. And soon we'll all be back together for some more coding or talking or chilling. The next time I'll be streaming.